Hello friends, my name is Saurabh Sharma. Let's talk about the Agriculture Orientation Index. We have this news in the Hindu, and this article is talking about that the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN report for 2001 to 19 shows that globally India is among the top 10 countries in terms of government spending in agriculture, constituting a share of around 7.3% of its total government expenditure. This is important. Sometimes the figure is also asked that how much of government expenditure government of India is spending on agriculture, and this is generally a report given by Food and Agriculture Organization of UN, right? And the period cover is 2001 to 19, right? But India lags behind several low income countries such as Malawi, Mali, Bhutan, Nepal, and upper middle income countries such as Guyana and China, right? So look at the spending within the bracket, how much they are spending. You can quote this while you are framing your arguments in the context related to mains. Do not try to give exact figures, just the approximation will do. And whenever you write or quote such figures, just write approximately in the end, your purpose is solved, right? Now, but here there is a context. The issue is that when we look at the Agriculture Orientation Index, an index which was developed as part of the global goal 2, that is zero hunger, goal 2 of sustainable development goals of the 2030 agenda for sustainable development goal in 2015. That means that it is disappointing when we are looking this investment from the perspective of the SDG 2, that is zero hunger, right? So what is this goal saying? That the SDG goal 2 emphasizes an increase in investment in rural infrastructure, agricultural research and extension services, development of technology to enhance agriculture productivity, and eradication of poverty in middle and lower income countries, right? This is the goal number 2 states that. But now we have to look at this entire topic from the perspective of what is this AOI and why the report is suggesting so negative about India, and why India is spending so much less here, and what can we do in this context, right? So this, let's start it with the agricultural spending in India, because it has talked about the agri spending, which is, it is saying that almost 7.3% India is spending, but it is lesser than the other countries, as you have seen in the context, right? So what happens is that the overall budgetary allocations towards the agriculture sector has marginally increased this year, right? This could be a question, that the agricultural spending this year budget has decreased, but not, it is increased. In MG Narega it is decreased, right? So it is increased by 4.4% in the union budget this year, that is 22-23, no problem. And the Food and Agriculture report for 2001 to 19 states that globally India is among the top 10 countries in terms of government spending and expenditure, and India spends around 7.3%, whereas many countries, as compared to India, they are spending bit higher. So, and also they have given this context of Agriculture Orientation Index in the reference in the news, so we have to understand it, right? So Agriculture Orientation Index, it is an index that was developed as part of goal 2, that is zero hunger, of the 2030 agenda, all right? And the AOI is calculated by dividing the agriculture share of government expenditure by the agriculture value added share of GDP, right? So it is basically it measures the ratio between the government spending towards the agriculture sector and the sector's contribution to GDP. It's like government spending in agriculture divided by the agriculture output in GDP, or agriculture contribution in GDP. This is how you get the agriculture orientation index, right? Government spending on agriculture divided by the agricultural contribution in the GDP, right? That's how you are just dividing this, and you get the agriculture orientation index. It measures the ratio, as I said, that the spending about divided by the contribution. No problem, right? Now, the agriculture orientation of India means that India's index is one of the lowest. Simple. That means the spending is lower side, though it is in top 10, but the contribution of agriculture within the overall GDP is not that lucrative, because it is just sustainably traditional system of agriculture India still follows, right? So the commercial and high level contribution is not at all yet realized. So India's index ultimately has to be lowest. The figure will come to the lower side, reflecting that the spending of the government in agriculture sector is not commensurate the sector's contribution towards GDP, right? Because 7.3% is the spending, whereas the GDP or the contribution of agriculture in India's GDP is fluctuating between 14% to 17%, right? 14 is also right, 17 is also right. So within that bracket, it is fluctuating, or let's say 17 to 18% at the higher side. So that means the output is more, but the spending is less. That is why the India's index is coming at the lower side, right? Now, the AOI has shown an improvement since mid 2000s, and India's AOI is one of the lowest in Asia. Important point to remember, right? Because India is just in top 10, but it is lagging behind China and like other countries, like if you just seeing in the on the screen that it is lagging behind the countries like Malawi, Mali, Bhutan, Nepal, right? And then other middle income countries like China, Guyana. So ultimately it is going to be least in the Asian nation, right? And India holds only the 38th rank in the world, despite being an agrarian economy wherein a huge population is dependent on the agriculture sector for its livelihood, right? More than 49% people are involved in this agriculture sector. And do not forget, my friend, especially after this pandemic, where people mass movement we have seen, laborers they have to leave their places twice, not just one, twice. So this agriculture sector has worked as the cushion, and it has absorbed that excess pool of labor into its core. Hence we should not undermine this agriculture sector, because it is not only providing us with the primary sources as the raw material, but it is also working as, or it is coming up as the cushion or the pool which is absorbing the excess of labor which is released from the urban economic system, right? Next, if we compare India with the other spending, right, Asia as a whole perform much better with relatively higher performance by Eastern Asian countries. That means ASEAN, right? And even lower income African countries like Zambia have commendable spending in agriculture sector despite being a landlocked country, right? And the enormous spending on the agriculture sector by East Asian countries is also reflected in their higher crop yield. As you can see, Thailand exports more rice than India, right? They have more rubber than India, they have more spices than India. So all these things you should consider. Then within the Asian region, Eastern Asia has the highest cereal yield, right? And in China, the performance of the sector in terms of crops yield is much higher than India, because China is the one country where most of the number one spots are being held by China, but not India. Because if in India the production is at higher side, then the scope of preserving those production and realizing them in the actual commercial market and converting those productions for the monetary benefits, or bringing that production to the plates of the consumers, it is yet there is a big gap still lying in the supply chain, right? Because the policies of farm to fork is there, where the hub and spoke model and where the supply chain management is tried to be made more accurate and effective, that can actually eliminate more losses through the wastage of the fruits, because more than 30% of fruits and vegetables get spoiled as soon as they leave the farm, because of the lower cold storage problems, the let's say like refrigeration system issues. Then the chain of procurement is also an issue. Then the infrastructural issues at the in the mandis, another thing. And the kisan or the farmers have to sell them at whatever the prices because of their perishable natures. So that is generally making the farming sector a vulnerable sector in the country. And therefore we are seeing that the output in many Asian and especially East Asian countries are at the higher side. Right now, the concerns with the spending in India is that the agriculture sector shows that there has been a drastic slashing of funds towards important schemes such as crop insurance and minimum support scheme price. Right, so that means we are seeing the consistent gradual reduction in the scheme or the monies allocated or fund allocated towards the scheme. Therefore the agriculture sector overall is suffering. Right, the even when we see the increase in the budgetary allocations. Right, the allocation towards market intervention scheme and price support scheme is also low. Right, here what happens is that market intervention scheme is that in many crops where they are not covered under MSPs, if the farmers are selling it in the outer market and they are not getting that actual price, then whatever the difference is there, it is generally paid by the government to the farmers. Right, and then price support scheme, let's say if the price of some crops are not that optimum in the open market, then government come to the rescue, and hence they provide this many subsidies and other kind of subvention through the price support scheme. Right, but towards this the fund allocation is still low. Therefore this agriculture sector is not at all performing good in India. Right, then Pradhan Mantri Annadata Ay Sanrakshan Abhiyan, that is PM Asha. It means, if I translate in English, I'll try to that. Prime Minister Security for Income for Farmers. Right, it experienced a significant reduction in 2021 and 22, and the distribution of pulses to states for welfare scheme has also been reduced in the year 2021-22. Therefore it has affected the production. Additionally, there is an overall reduction in total central schemes or projects, which may have serious implications for the performance of the sector. So that means there has been a structural issue in the sector. There has been institutional support issues in the sector, and many schemes, even though they are existing, but still the focus is not at all with the same thrust how with what it was started. Right, so overall what we can expect to do in this area so that we can actually change the situation presently what is there in the country, the focus must be on the development of irrigation facilities, most important. Right, because in many areas in India, the water table level has gone so down, so deep, that it is very expensive business to bring water to the surface. And in many southern India, like the tank system is still used, and then the new modern technology like drip irrigation, the sprinkler, government support is not at all that effective or lucrative in many states. Hence this irrigation facilities is a big problem. Urban infrastructure and development of national highways must be complemented, because the development of rural infrastructure and rural transportation is leading to the losses of so much of products before it reaches to the mandi or consumer or end consumers. Right, so lacking in these facilities is also creating a problem. And with an increase in the number of markets, we can ensure that the many spots are provided for the farmers to display their products and to make reach, so that end consumer can actually take access and benefit, and they can buy the products. Right, then the measures will play a crucial role in enhancing farmers' access to markets and integrating small and marginal farmers into the agriculture supply chain into a great extent. Here the credit also plays an important role. Here the soil testing card plays an important role. The Kisan credit card plays an important role. The subsidized urea and other chemicals are also playing an important role. And here the organic farming, which is still an expensive affair in India, it is also playing an important role. So overall, the structural policies must be made for the agricultural sector in India, and hence the policies must be implemented with so much of spirit that This sector is the backbone of the country, and hence it requires a consistent and continuous support from the government backing, and the products of the farms must be made directly available to the consumer so that they can get the fair prices of their products by eliminating the what say like middlemen from the supply chain. And ultimately the transportation, warehousing and other logistical system also plays an important role in the overall and comprehensive development of supply chain, where farmer, they are not forced to sell their products because of their perishable nature, whereas they should have this bargaining power that as per the supply and demand ratio, or this balance in the economy or in the market, they can actually bring out their products for the right time for making the sale. Otherwise the haste sales will always give them the fake sales simply. So that was all about the this agricultural settings in India and about the agriculture orientation index that was given and or it was there in the news. Thank you so much.